Here is a summary of the story Deep Water by William Orville Douglas. The story begins with the narrator recounting an incident that took place when he was 10 or 11 years old. The narrator had decided to learn swimming at the YMCA pool in Yakima. He was initially worried when he stepped into the YMCA pool since it stirred unpleasant memories. When he was about 3 or 4 years old, his father had taken him to a beach in California. The waves had knocked him over, and he had been covered by water. This experience had filled him with a deep fear of water. The narrator felt this fear resurfacing at the YMCA pool. But over some days, he overcame the fear by observing and imitating the actions of other boys who were swimming. One day, the narrator was sitting alone by the side of the pool, waiting for the others to turn up. He did not have the confidence to enter the pool alone. A huge boy of 18 came in, picked him up, and threw him into the deep end of the pool. The narrator panicked as he sank to the bottom of the pool, but he kept his wits about him. He decided to push himself up to the surface when his feet hit the bottom and then paddled to the edge of the pool. Unfortunately, he came up slowly. When he opened his eyes, he saw nothing but yellow water. He started to panic as he rose, especially when he could not get his face out of the water. As he sank slowly back down, he started to lose his breath and was suddenly stiff with fear. He reached the bottom and he jumped again, coming up slowly. He was overcome with terror again and froze. He almost came up, but again went back under. Darkness surrounded him as he gave up the struggle to survive, exhausted. Death seemed to welcome him and he lost consciousness. The next thing he knew, he was lying beside the pool, vomiting the water he had swallowed. He had been pulled out of the water just in time. This incident left him feeling vulnerable and helpless, and from that day, he was terrified of water. As he grew older, this fear stayed with him and ruined his fishing trips. It prevented him from enjoying simple joys of life like canoeing, boating, and swimming. Finally, he decided to learn swimming from an instructor. He started practicing 5 days a week at a pool. First, he swam repeatedly up and down a pool with a belt that was attached to an overhead rope that the instructor held. He panicked every time he went underwater, but this subsided over 3 months. The instructor then taught him to breathe and kick properly, and eventually he learned to swim without help. The narrator was overjoyed, but wondered if he could swim alone without his instructor's support. He managed just fine. To curb his lingering doubts, he swam alone across Lake Wentworth and then across Warm Lake, which he had visited before. He did experience his old fear once in Lake Wentworth, but was able to ignore it. When he was able to swim across Warm Lake and back, he was ecstatic at having conquered his fear. The narrator ends the story by quoting Franklin D. Roosevelt's words, "All we have to fear is fear itself." His near-death experience had only made him stronger. He finally felt liberated.